Just kiss me. Those were the last words I expected to hear from my ex-girlfriend in the middle of a crowded hotel ballroom, especially with more than 200 people standing around us. I stared at Claire Bennett while music rolled through the room and couples moved beneath strings of warm lights. You're serious? I asked. Her fingers tightened around my jacket. My mother is coming this way. She thinks we're still together. Claire, we broke up 8 months ago. I know. Does she? Claire's expression answered before she did. Then she glanced over my shoulder and went pale. Too late. I turned just enough to see three people approaching. The three people who knew our relationship better than almost anyone. Claire's mother, her father, and her older sister. Daniel, Claire whispered. Please? I should have stepped away. Instead, I put one hand against her waist and kissed her. For 3 seconds, the room disappeared. Then someone behind us gasped. Claire pulled back. Her mother stood less than 10 feet away, staring at us with tears in her eyes. Her father looked stunned. Her sister looked furious. And that was when I realized Claire hadn't asked me to pretend for the reason I thought she had. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy second chance love stories, where one impossible choice forces two people to finally tell the truth. And leave a comment telling me this. Would you ever pretend to still be in love with an ex if their family believed you were still together? Because that kiss exposed something neither Claire nor I had been willing to admit. 8 months earlier, Claire ended our relationship in my kitchen on a Tuesday night, so ordinary that I still remember being offended by the weather. It should have been raining. There should have been thunder or some dramatic warning that my life was about to divide itself into before and after. Instead, Denver had one of those clear September evenings when the sky stayed blue until almost 7. I had been chopping onions while Claire sat at the counter, unusually quiet. We had been together for 4 years. I was 36, she was 33, and everyone around us assumed marriage was inevitable. Everyone except, apparently, Claire. Daniel, she said, can you stop for a second? I set the knife down. That tone never introduces anything good. She didn't smile. That frightened me. I think we need to break up. For several seconds, I genuinely thought I had misunderstood her. What? I don't think we should keep doing this. Doing what? Us. I stared at her. Did something happen? No. Is there someone else? No, man. Then what are you talking about? Claire pressed both hands against the counter. We've been together 4 years, Daniel. I'm aware. And every time the future comes up, you become practical. What does that mean? It means when I talk about marriage, you talk about mortgage rates. When I mention children, you talk about childcare costs. When I ask where you see us in 5 years, you tell me which neighborhoods are appreciating. Those things matter. They do. But I'm not asking you for a financial forecast. I'm asking whether you want a life with me. Of course I do. Then why have I spent the last year feeling like I'm waiting for you to choose it? I became defensive because the alternative was admitting she had found the exact question I had been avoiding. I am here, Claire. Being here isn't the same as choosing what comes next. You want a proposal? No. That's what this sounds like. I want certainty that comes from you, not certainty I had to drag out of you. Nobody is certain about everything. I'm certain I want to build a family. And I've never said I don't. You've never said you do. That stopped me. Claire looked at me for several seconds, then nodded as if my silence had completed a sentence. That's what I mean. She stood. I love you, Daniel. But I don't want to become someone who keeps lowering the definition of commitment because the man she loves is kind and loyal and almost ready. Almost ready? Yes. You're making me sound like I've wasted 4 years of your life. I don't think that. Then don't leave. Her eyes filled. Tell me why. Because we love each other. And? I had 100 thoughts. None became words quickly enough. Claire picked up her coat. Exactly. She left 20 minutes later. I didn't chase her. For months I told myself that was because I respected her decision. Eventually, I admitted another truth. I had been terrified that if I stopped her, she would ask what I was actually offering, and I still wouldn't know how to answer. Claire and I met 5 years before that breakup at a charity construction project in Aurora. I owned a small architectural consulting firm specializing in renovations of older commercial buildings. Claire was an event director for a nonprofit arts foundation. Her organization had partnered with a housing charity to renovate a community center, and I had volunteered through one of my clients. Claire arrived wearing clean white sneakers that lasted approximately 9 minutes before she stepped into a tray of paint. "Don't say anything," she warned when she saw me looking. I wasn't going to. "Your face was." "My face has poor boundaries." Apparently. 20 minutes later, she caught me measuring a wall that had already been measured twice. "You're one of those people, aren't you?" "Accurate? Control issues disguised as professionalism. And you're wearing white shoes at a construction site. Optimism disguised as stupidity." That made me laugh. We spent the rest of the day teasing each other. 3 days later, I found an email from her asking whether I wanted coffee. I answered yes in under a minute, then waited 12 minutes before sending it because I didn't want to look eager. When I eventually admitted that, Claire said the 12-minute delay explained almost everything wrong with me. She wasn't entirely joking. We fit together easily. Claire was socially fearless where I was reserved. I planned, she improvised. I liked quiet restaurants. She knew everyone at crowded parties. I checked hotel reviews before booking. Claire once chose a motel because its sign had a pink flamingo. She taught me that unpredictability didn't automatically mean disaster. I gave her enough structure that she stopped arriving at airports 30 minutes before departure. Her family welcomed me almost immediately. Her mother, Susan, treated feeding people as a competitive sport. Her father, Radhos Robertabadis, was a retired high school principal who could make silence feel like an interview. Claire's sister, Megan, was 4 years older, divorced, fiercely protective, and suspicious of me for approximately 6 months. Then, one Thanksgiving, she watched me spend 40 minutes repairing a cabinet hinge while everyone else watched football and apparently decided I was acceptable. By our 3rd year together, I had a stocking at the Bennett's house. Robert called me when his deck needed repairs. Susan included me in family group texts. Megan occasionally called for advice about contractors. Claire's niece Lily, who was 9, referred to me as Uncle Daniel even though no one had instructed her to. That made the breakup more complicated than either Claire or I expected. I didn't just lose Claire, I lost an entire network of ordinary relationships. Susan texted me once afterward, "I'm sorry, I won't interfere, just know we love you." I stared at that message for an hour and never answered because anything I wrote felt like trespassing. Robert sent me a Christmas card. Megan sent nothing. Claire and I exchanged exactly 4 messages in 8 months. 2 concerned belongings. One was a birthday message from her to me. The 4th happened when my father had minor surgery, and she somehow heard through mutual friends. "Hope he's okay. Tell him I'm thinking about him." I wrote back, "Thank you, he's doing well." That was it. I dated twice. Neither relationship lasted beyond a month. Claire, as far as I knew, didn't date seriously. I learned that accidentally through mutual friends and immediately pretended the information meant nothing. Then my company was hired to consult on the renovation of the Halston Hotel, a historic property outside Boulder. The project included restoring its ballroom, which happened to be the venue for the annual fundraiser organized by Claire's foundation. I knew she would be involved. I assumed we could behave like adults. For 6 weeks we did. Our communication was professional. She emailed schedules. I sent inspection reports. We met twice with contractors and never discussed anything personal. The first crack appeared 3 days before the fundraiser when Claire arrived while I was inspecting the ballroom ceiling. "You changed the lighting. Restored it. It's beautiful." That sounded dangerously close to a compliment. "Don't get used to it." I climbed down from the ladder. Claire looked different, not physically. She still wore her dark hair just past her shoulders, still tilted her head slightly when studying something. But there was more distance in her. It made me understand that 8 months had happened to her too. "How have you been?" I asked. "Good. Actually?" She hesitated. "Mostly." "Me too." "Actually?" "Mostly." She smiled. For 30 seconds, we sounded like ourselves. Then her phone rang and the moment closed. Before leaving, she said, "Are you coming Saturday?" "To the fundraiser?" "Your company has a table." "I know." "So?" "Probably. My parents will be there." I went still. "Okay." Claire looked uncomfortable. "There's something I should probably explain." "That sounds promising." After we broke up, my mother was having some health issues. "Is she okay?" "She is now. It was an arrhythmia, manageable. But she was stressed, and at first I didn't tell her about us." "At first?" Claire looked toward the ballroom doors. "Then every time I tried, something happened. Tests, medication changes, Lily's school problems. Megan's divorce paperwork, and eventually not telling her became harder to correct. I stared at her. Claire, does your mother think we're still together? Sort of. Sort of? Yes. There is no sort of in that question. She thinks we're taking some space because work has been busy. That is dramatically different from broken up. I know. Your father? He knows. Megan? She knows. So only your mother doesn't? Yes. And she'll be at the fundraiser. Yes. I rubbed my forehead. Fantastic. I'm telling her before Saturday. Good. I mean it. Claire, you don't need my permission. I know. She walked away, but something about her expression stayed with me. Saturday night, the restored ballroom was packed. Claire's foundation had sold every ticket. I arrived with 2 colleagues and spent the first hour discussing historic preservation with donors who were far more interested in the open bar. Claire moved through the crowd in a dark green dress, managing volunteers, greeting sponsors, solving problems before most people noticed they existed. Watching her work reminded me how much I had always admired her competence. Loving Claire had never been about needing her. She was one of the most capable people I knew. That had been part of my problem. Because she didn't need rescuing, I had somehow convinced myself she didn't need reassurance either. Around 9, my colleague Sam disappeared toward the bar. I was studying a restored plaster detail when Claire appeared beside me. You came. Company table. Right. How's your mother? Claire's expression changed. Good. You told her? Silence. Claire, I tried. What happened? She showed me something before I could. What? Claire reached into her small purse and pulled out a folded brochure. Inside was a photograph of a lake house. My parents rented this place for their 40th anniversary in June. Looks nice. They invited the whole family. Okay. Including you. I looked at her. Claire, Mom already paid for the extra room? Then tell her. I will. Tonight? Yes. Before or after she asks whether I'm excited about our romantic lake vacation. You're enjoying this. Not remotely. Claire exhaled. I know I made it worse. Why didn't Robert or Megan tell her? Dad wanted me to do it myself. Megan thinks I'm an idiot. Megan and I finally agree on something. Claire almost laughed. Then she looked past me and froze. Oh no. What? Nathan, a tall man in a tuxedo, was approaching. I recognized him vaguely as a donor who had spent most of the evening hovering around Claire. Who's Nathan? Board member's son. And? My mother thinks he's trying to ask me out. Is he? Probably. Something unpleasant tightened in my chest. That seems like your problem. It is. Nathan reached us and smiled at Claire. There you are. I was hoping I could steal you for a dance. Claire opened her mouth. Before she answered, Susan Bennett appeared behind him. Claire! I hadn't seen Susan in 8 months. She looked almost exactly the same, only thinner. Her face lit up when she saw me. Daniel! She hugged me before I could react. I was beginning to think you were avoiding me. Hi, Susan. Look at you two. Finally in the same room again. Nathan's smile faded slightly. Susan looked between us. Claire told me you've both been so busy. I glanced at Claire. Her face had gone rigid. Mom? She began. Actually, there's something... There you are, Robert interrupted as he approached with Megan. Robert saw me, then Claire, then Susan. His expression became immediately cautious. Megan's became murderous. This is perfect, Susan said. All of us together. Nathan cleared his throat. Claire, about that dance? Susan looked surprised. Oh, I'm sorry. Nathan, have you met Daniel? Claire's boyfriend. There it was. Public, clear, impossible to ignore. Mom, Claire said again. Susan kept talking. They've been together almost 5 years. Practically family. Nathan looked at me. I looked at Claire. Claire looked like she wanted the floor to open beneath her. Actually, Nathan said, Claire mentioned she was single. Susan's smile disappeared. Single? Megan muttered. Here we go. Claire took her mother's arm. Mom, can we talk somewhere private? Susan stared at her. What does he mean? Around us, the crowd shifted. Not everyone was watching, but enough people were close enough to hear. Claire's professional smile appeared, the one she used when something was going wrong at an event, and she refused to let anyone see panic. Not here. Claire, please. Susan looked toward me. Daniel? I could have told the truth. I should have. Instead, I saw fear in Claire's face. Not fear of being caught, but fear that her mother's first experience of the breakup would happen publicly, surrounded by donors and coworkers. We'll explain, I said. Susan's eyes narrowed. Explain what? Then a photographer called Claire's name from across the ballroom. Claire, we need the sponsor photos. She closed her eyes briefly. I'll be there in 2 minutes. Susan looked increasingly alarmed. Are you two together or not? Claire's hand found my wrist. Daniel, she whispered. Then the music changed, and several couples moved between us and the nearest tables. Claire looked at me with desperate concentration. I need 30 seconds. For what? Mom believes actions more than explanations when she's upset. That sounds ominous. Just kiss me. I stared at her. Absolutely not. Please. You want me to kiss you so your mother thinks we're together? For 30 seconds. Then I'll get her somewhere private and tell her everything. Claire, that is a terrible plan. I know. Possibly your worst. I know. And I once watched you drive 90 miles because you booked a hotel in the wrong Aspen. Daniel. Her eyes flicked over my shoulder. She's coming back. No. Please. This is insane. I'm asking, not forcing you. That mattered. So did the fact that I still loved her, though I wasn't ready to admit it. Susan started toward us. Claire whispered, If you don't want to, say no. I should have. Instead, I stepped closer. One kiss. One. My hand settled at Claire's waist almost automatically. She inhaled sharply. I gave her enough time to change her mind. She didn't. Then I kissed her. I kissed. It was supposed to look convincing. That was the problem. I remembered Claire too well, the slight way she leaned toward me, the hand that instinctively caught the front of my jacket, the breath she took when I pulled back. 3 seconds became 5. The ballroom noise seemed to recede. For one reckless moment, I forgot Susan, Nathan, the fundraiser, and 8 months of separation. Claire forgot too. I knew because when the kiss ended, she didn't immediately open her eyes. Then someone gasped. We turned. Susan stood nearby with Robert and Megan. Susan's expression wasn't relieved. It was devastated. Robert looked disappointed. Megan looked ready to throw both of us into traffic. Mom, Claire said. Susan shook her head. Don't. Please let me explain. Are you together? Claire's hand fell from my jacket. This time she answered. No. Susan stared at her. Then what did I just watch? A mistake. That word hit me harder than it should have. Claire looked at me immediately. Not the kiss, I mean pretending. Megan stepped forward. You told me you were going to tell her. I was. 8 months, Claire. Susan's face changed. 8 months? Claire went pale. Robert put a hand on his wife's shoulder. Susan, maybe we should go somewhere quieter. She pulled away. You knew? Robert didn't answer quickly enough. You knew. Claire asked me to let her tell you. Susan looked at Megan. You too? Megan nodded. Mom. So everyone knew except me. It wasn't like that, Claire said. It is exactly like that. Several people were openly watching now. I stepped forward. Susan, this isn't the place. She looked at me. Did you know I didn't know? Not until 3 days ago. And you agreed to this? I could have protected myself. Instead, I said, Yo. Susan's disappointment landed with surprising force. I expected better from both of you. Then she walked away. Robert followed. Megan stayed. Congratulations, she said quietly to Claire. You managed to turn a breakup into a family crisis. Megan. No, you don't get to make Mom feel foolish because you were uncomfortable. I was trying to protect her. From what? Knowing your life? Claire's eyes filled. You know what was happening when we broke up. Yes, I also know Mom is an adult. Megan looked at me. And you. I know. Do you? I shouldn't have done it. Claire flinched. Megan noticed but said nothing. Fix it, she told her sister, then followed their parents. Claire and I stood beside each other while music continued around us. I'm sorry, she whispered. You should go after them. Daniel? Go. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but then she turned and left. I stayed because my company was one of the sponsors and disappearing would have created another problem. For the next hour, I shook hands, discussed renovation costs, and pretended I hadn't just kissed the woman I still loved in front of half her professional network. Nathan approached once. For what it's worth, he said, I'm going to withdraw my dance request. Smart. Are you actually her ex? Yes. That looked complicated. Also, yes. He nodded toward the exit. She left with her parents. Thanks. When the fundraiser ended, I drove home alone. Claire called at midnight. I watched the phone ring until voicemail. She called again. I answered. Is your mother okay? Angry. Reasonably. She's more hurt than angry. Also reasonably. Claire was quiet. Can we talk? Not tonight. Okay. I need to understand something first. What? When you called the kiss a mistake, which part did you mean? Silence. Claire? Pretending. You said that. Because that's what I meant. Then why did you look like you regretted saying it? She exhaled. Because I knew how it sounded. Good night, Claire. Daniel, wait. Tomorrow. I ended the call. I barely slept. The kiss replayed itself with humiliating precision. The sensible explanation was simple. Familiarity. 4 years of physical memory, adrenaline, nostalgia. None explained why the moment had felt less like remembering and more like returning. The next morning, Claire texted, Mom wants to talk to both of us. I almost laughed. We were adults in our 30s being summoned by someone's mother because we had staged a kiss at a fundraiser. Then another message arrived. I also need to talk to you, not about Mom. I stared at that one longer. We met at her parents' house that afternoon. Susan opened the door and hugged me automatically, then seemed annoyed with herself for doing it. Come in. Claire was already there. Robert sat in his usual chair. Megan leaned against the fireplace with coffee. Nobody looked comfortable. Susan began before I sat down. I'm not angry that you broke up. Claire nodded. I know. I'm hurt that you decided I couldn't handle knowing. You were dealing with your heart. My heart condition was manageable. We didn't know that at first. For 3 weeks. What about the next 7 months? Claire looked down. I kept waiting for the right moment. There wasn't one. I know. Susan's voice softened. Were you ashamed? Of the breakup? Yes. Claire's answer surprised all of us. A little. Why? Because everyone thought Daniel and I were the stable couple. You had already started talking about weddings. Dad joked about grandchildren. Lily called him Uncle Daniel. I felt like I had failed at something everyone thought was already decided. I looked at her. Claire had never told me that. Susan reached for her daughter's hand. Honey, you don't owe me a successful relationship. I know logically. And emotionally? Claire smiled sadly. Apparently I'm behind. Robert finally spoke. Why did you end it? Claire glanced at me. Dad. I'm not asking for details. I'm asking whether Daniel hurt you. No. Did you hurt him? Claire looked at me again. Probably. We hurt each other, I said. Susan's eyes moved between us. And last night? Claire swallowed. I panicked. Why him? Megan asked. What? There were 200 people in that ballroom. Why was Daniel the person you grabbed when you panicked? Because Mom thought we were together. That explains the lie. It doesn't explain the kiss. Megan, Susan warned. No, I'm serious. Claire could have walked Mom outside. She could have told Nathan the truth. She could have created any excuse. Instead, she asked Daniel to kiss her. Claire's cheeks colored. It was stupid. Megan looked at me. And you agreed. Also stupid. Why? Because she asked. You say no to people constantly. Megan. I'm helping. You're enjoying this, Claire said. A little. Susan unexpectedly laughed. The tension cracked. Then Robert looked at me. Daniel, are you still in love with my daughter? The room went silent. Dad! Claire stood. That is absolutely none of your business. Correct, I said. Robert raised his eyebrows. Meaning? Meaning I'm not answering that question in a family meeting. Megan smiled. That sounds suspiciously like an answer. Megan, 3 people said simultaneously. For the first time all afternoon, Claire laughed. Susan forgave Claire, but she didn't let her escape the lesson. Protecting me would have meant helping me through difficult information, she said. Keeping me uninformed protected you from an uncomfortable conversation. Claire nodded. You're right. That sentence stayed with me because it sounded uncomfortably familiar. I had done my own version during our relationship. I told myself I avoided marriage conversations because I didn't want to make promises before I was completely certain. In reality, uncertainty protected me from vulnerability. Claire and I left her parents' house together, but stopped beside our separate cars. "Thank you for coming," she said. Your mother asked. Still, she deserved the truth. So did you. I looked at her. About what? Claire folded her arms against the cold. The breakup. I was there. Not all of it. What does that mean? I gave you reasons, but I didn't tell you everything. Why? Because I wanted you to stop me without me asking you to. I stared at her. Claire, I know how unfair that sounds. Very. I had convinced myself that if you really wanted marriage, you would fight when I left. When you didn't, I took it as confirmation. You told me you wanted to end the relationship. I know. What was I supposed to do? Block the door? No. Argue until your decision became irrelevant? No. Then what? Claire looked down. Tell me you wanted a future badly enough to work on why you were afraid of it. And if I couldn't say that then breaking up was still right. That surprised me. You don't regret it? I regret how I did it. I don't regret refusing to stay in the same place forever. Those are different. Yes. And the kiss? Her eyes lifted to mine. I regret asking you to lie. Carefully phrased. Daniel, do you regret kissing me? She took several seconds. No. My heartbeat changed. That's a problem. I know. For who? Both of us. Why? Claire looked toward the street. Because I spent 8 months trying to learn how to live without expecting you to become ready someday. And one kiss shouldn't be enough to undo that. It isn't. She looked at me. Good. But it was enough to make me stop pretending I'm over you. Claire's expression went still. There it was, the sentence I had avoided for 8 months. Once spoken, it didn't destroy anything. It simply became true in the open. Daniel, I'm not asking for anything. That somehow makes it worse. Why? Because I'm not over you either, and we did not get back together that afternoon. That was the first intelligent decision either of us made in 48 hours. Instead, Claire suggested coffee the following week. Not a date, she said. What is it? A conversation. We've had several. A deliberate one, but terrifying. You'll survive. We met Wednesday at the coffee shop where we had spent dozens of Sunday mornings during our relationship. Claire chose a different table, I noticed. Symbolic? I asked. The old table has bad structural integrity. You're making fun of me. Growth. We agreed to ask questions we should have asked before the breakup. Claire went first. Why were you afraid of marriage? I wasn't afraid of marriage generally. With me? No, permanence. She waited. My parents stayed married for 32 years, Matt, I said. You know that. And hated each other for at least 10. I know. When I was 16, my mother told me she stayed because leaving would mean admitting she had chosen wrong. Claire's expression softened. You never told me that. I barely remembered it consciously until after we broke up. But I think I built this idea that committing too strongly meant losing the ability to admit a mistake. So you kept an exit available? Emotionally, yes. Even when you didn't want to leave. Especially then. Claire sat back. That explains a lot. Doesn't excuse it. No. My turn? Why didn't you tell me you were considering leaving before the night you actually left? Because I had brought up the future so many times that another conversation felt like begging. You thought giving me a warning would become an ultimatum. Exactly. So instead you gave me the ultimatum without warning. She winced. When you phrase it like that, I sound awful. We both had sophisticated methods of avoiding direct communication. At least we were compatible. We laughed, then became serious again. What do you want now? She asked. This was the question that once would have made me reach for practical qualifications. I forced myself not to. I want marriage. Claire blinked. In general? Eventually, yes, but I'm not saying that because I think it gets you back. Children? I want them. You used to say maybe. I used to say maybe because saying yes made the future feel like a contract already signed. And now? Now I understand wanting something doesn't guarantee it. It just tells you which direction you're walking. Claire looked at her coffee. That's annoyingly healthy. I've had 8 months. Therapy? 6 months. Her head snapped up. You went to therapy? Try not to sound so shocked. Daniel, you once said journaling was paperwork for feelings. I still stand by that. She laughed. Why didn't you tell me? Because we weren't together. I wasn't improving as an advertisement. That silenced her. I started too, she said eventually. Therapy? 3 months after we broke up. Why? Because Megan told me if I complained one more time that you hadn't chased me after I explicitly told you to let me go, she was going to invoice me. I've always liked Megan. Liar. We talked for 3 hours. The following weeks it became a strange middle ground. We weren't dating, but we met regularly. We discussed the breakup without turning every conversation into an autopsy. We also rediscovered ordinary things. Claire still stole fries. I still remembered how she took her coffee. She had started pottery classes and was terrible at them. I had joined a weekend hiking group and discovered I disliked organized hiking because apparently I wanted nature without administrative structure. One Saturday, Claire invited me to an exhibit her foundation had funded. I assumed it was work-related until she arrived wearing jeans instead of event clothes. Is this a date? I asked. Do you need a classification before entering the building? Professionally, yes. Fine, it's date adjacent. That is not a category. It is now. We walked through the exhibit. At one point, a photographer from the fundraiser recognized us. You two looked great in those ballroom photos, she said. Claire and I exchanged horrified looks. There are photos? Claire asked. Of course. How many? A few. The photographer smiled and walked away. Claire covered her face. We're never attending public events together again. Agreed. Especially if my family is present. Strong policy. No fake kissing. Also sensible. She lowered her hands. Real kissing? I looked at her. That depends. On? Whether you're asking because you want to kiss me or because someone is watching. Claire stepped closer. Nobody is watching. Then ask. Daniel. I'm serious. She held my gaze. Can I kiss you? Yes. She did. This kiss was quieter than the ballroom kiss. No crowd, no lie, no emergency. When we separated, Claire smiled. Better. Significantly. Still complicated. Yes. Good. Why good? Because I don't trust easy anymore. Neither did I. The complication arrived a month later when I received an offer to join a larger architecture firm in Chicago as a partner. It was the kind of professional opportunity I would once have treated as automatically decisive. Higher salary, equity, larger projects, a chance to lead restoration work across the Midwest. The offer came with a 6-week deadline to relocate. I told Claire the day after receiving it. We were having dinner at my apartment. She put down her fork. Chicago. Yes. Do you want it? Part of me does. Which part? The part that spent 15 years building towards something like this. And the other part? Doesn't want to leave Denver. Because of me, I almost minimized it. Then I remembered what we were trying to change. Partly because of you. Claire nodded slowly. Thank you. That scares you? A little. Why? Because I don't want your decision to become my responsibility. It isn't. It could feel like it later. Then we talk about that possibility instead of pretending you don't matter. She studied me. What do you want from me? Information. About? Whether what we're doing has a real direction. You're asking if we're getting back together. I'm asking whether that's what you want. Claire was silent for a long time. Yes. My chest tightened. Yes? I want to try again. Actually try. Not drift into it because we kissed twice and our families already know each other. I want that too. But I'm not asking you to reject Chicago. I know. And I'm not promising I would move. I know. You're irritatingly calm. Internally, I'm having 12 separate crises. She smiled. There you are. We officially became a couple again that night. No dramatic declaration, no proposal, no promise that geography would cooperate. We simply chose the relationship clearly enough that it could become part of the Chicago decision. 2 weeks later, I flew to Chicago for final interviews. Claire did not come. That mattered. I needed to evaluate the job without turning the trip into a romantic referendum. I loved the firm. I loved the projects. I liked the people. I disliked the expectation that partners would travel nearly half the month. By the end of the visit, I realized something important. 5 years earlier, I would have accepted because the title looked like progress. Now I wasn't sure the life attached to it matched what I wanted. When I returned, Claire met me for dinner. Well, she asked. Excellent firm. Her face tightened slightly. Okay. Great projects. Okay. I'm probably saying no. She stared at me. Because of me? No. Daniel, you influence the decision. You are not the reason. Explained it. I want a family someday. Whether that's with you or if this somehow fails with someone else, I don't want a job built around constant travel. I like my firm. I like Denver. I want more leadership, but there are ways to pursue that here. Would you have figured that out if we weren't together? Maybe later. That's not the same as yes. No, it isn't. Claire looked worried. I don't want you to sacrifice something and call it growth. Neither do I. Promise me something. What? If you ever resent me for Chicago, tell me before the resentment becomes a story where I forced you to stay. I smiled. Deal. I'm serious. So am I. I declined the offer the following morning. 6 months later, my own firm promoted me to managing director after one of the founders retired. The salary increase was smaller than Chicago's. The work suited me better. Claire never said I told you so. I loved her slightly more for that. Our families adjusted to our second chance with varying levels of enthusiasm. Susan was delighted, but careful. I'm not booking anything, she announced the first time we had dinner after reconciling. No anniversary houses, no wedding venues, no matching bathrobes. Thank you, Claire said. I did see some lovely bathrobes. Mom, Robert pulled me aside afterward. You understand I like you, he said. I hoped. But if you two break up again, I'm keeping the drill you lent me. That's theft. Emotional damages. Megan remained the hardest. One evening, she asked me to help carry boxes into her garage. Once we were alone, she said, Are you serious this time? Yes. That was fast. I've had months to think. Claire wants children. I know. She wants marriage. I know. Don't waste another 4 years deciding whether you want the same life. I won't. Megan studied me. And don't propose because you're scared she'll leave. I won't do that either. Good. Any other threats? Several. I'm spacing them out. Then she handed me a box. That was Megan's version of acceptance. A year after the fundraiser, Claire and I attended the same annual event at the Halston Hotel. The ballroom looked almost identical. Same warm lights, same polished floor, same photographer. This time, there was no confusion about our relationship. We had been back together for 10 months. We had moved slowly enough that some friends found it ridiculous. We kept separate apartments for 6 months. We did premarital style counseling before anyone was engaged because Claire said waiting until a ring appeared to discuss marriage seemed backwards. We talked about money, children, careers, aging parents, where we wanted to live, and what commitment meant when feelings became inconvenient. Some conversations were romantic, most were not. They were better than romance alone. Halfway through the fundraiser, I saw Claire standing with Susan and Megan near the same section of the ballroom where she had asked me to kiss her the previous year. Susan noticed me and smiled. Daniel, come here. I approached cautiously. Why does this feel organized? Megan looked innocent. Paranoia? Historical evidence. Claire laughed. Relax. Susan pointed toward the dance floor. Go dance with your girlfriend. That sounds suspiciously like an order. Fine. Claire, ask him. Claire extended her hand. Would you like to dance with me? Is anyone under the mistaken impression we broke up? No. Is Nathan here? Married. Fast. Different Nathan. Good. I took her hand. We moved onto the floor. Claire rested one hand against my shoulder. You know everyone is watching us now because Mom made a scene. Your family has a gift. Sorry. I've survived worse. Like being kissed by your ex in public? Deeply traumatic. You kissed me. Under pressure, but I gave you a choice. True. We danced for a minute, then Claire looked at me differently. What? I asked. Nothing. You're terrible at nothing. I was thinking about last year. Dangerous. I thought that kiss was the most embarrassing moment of my life. Your mother finding out you lied for 8 months probably wins. Thank you. Accuracy matters. But now I think it might have been necessary. The lie? No, getting caught. I understood. We were both very good at keeping uncomfortable truths private. Exactly. The crowd ruined that. My family ruined it. Megan would enjoy that interpretation. Claire smiled. Do you ever wish we hadn't broken up? I thought about it. I wish we had learned sooner. That isn't what I asked. No. So? I don't wish away the breakup. Her expression tightened slightly. I continued. Because I don't know whether old me would have changed while everything still felt comfortable. And I don't know whether old you would have learned to ask directly instead of testing whether I would guess. Claire nodded. That's fair. I hate that we hurt each other. Me too. But I don't want the old relationship back. Neither do I. Good, she smiled. What do you want? This one. That was dangerously romantic. Don't tell anyone. 3 months later, I bought a ring. I didn't propose immediately. That distinction mattered to me. Buying the ring was a private acknowledgement that I knew what I wanted. Proposing required considering what Claire wanted too. We had already discussed marriage directly. She wanted it, I wanted it. We had talked about timing. No surprises about the decision, only the moment. I kept the ring for 6 weeks. Then Susan almost discovered it when she came to my apartment looking for a screwdriver Robert had borrowed. Why is your desk drawer locked? She asked. Why are you attempting to open my desk? I was looking for batteries. In a locked drawer? You're behaving suspiciously. Please leave my office. She narrowed her eyes. Interesting. I called Claire afterward. Your mother nearly destroyed something important. What did she break? Nothing. Then what? Never mind. Daniel, your family has boundary problems. You knew that before dating me. I decided I needed to act before Susan accidentally organized my proposal herself. The following weekend, Claire and I returned to the community center where we had first met. The charity was celebrating completion of another renovation, and Claire's foundation had funded a new arts room. It wasn't a glamorous setting. Children ran through hallways. Volunteers carried folding chairs. Someone had left paint rollers in a bucket near the entrance. Claire looked at them and smiled. Remember my shoes? Tragic. They were expensive. They were white. I was young. You were 28. Practically a child. After the ceremony, people gradually left. Claire and I remained because she was checking the final donation signage. When she finished, she found me standing beside the wall where we had first argued about measurements. Why are you smiling? She asked. Memory. You were obnoxious. You asked me for coffee. Temporary lapse. Changed your life. Unfortunately, I reached into my jacket. Claire saw the movement and went completely still. Daniel, I need to ask you something. Her hands rose to her mouth. Oh my God. I had a speech. You had a speech? Several versions. Of course you did. You're interrupting. Sorry. I took the ring out but stayed standing. Before I do the traditional part, I want to say this correctly. Claire's eyes filled. Okay. The first time we were together, I thought commitment meant predicting the future accurately enough that I could promise nothing would go wrong. That was impossible, so I kept waiting for certainty. You thought love meant I should understand what you needed without you having to risk asking. That was impossible too. Claire laughed through tears. This is extremely us. I'm not promising that we'll never doubt a decision. I'm not promising our careers will always line up or that we'll never disappoint each other. I'm promising I won't hide behind uncertainty when I know what I want. And I know what I want. I lowered myself onto one knee. Claire Bennett, I want to build a family with you. I want the ordinary days, the difficult conversations, your mother's interference, Megan's threats, and whatever comes after the plans stop working. Will you marry me? Claire was crying openly. Yes. You should consider it. Daniel. Just confirming. Yes. I put the ring on her finger. She pulled me up and kissed me. Somewhere behind us, someone screamed. We jumped apart. Susan emerged from the hallway with Robert, Megan, and Lily. Claire stared at them, then at me. You invited my family? No. I looked at Susan. Why are you here? Susan looked guilty. Megan told me there might be something happening. Megan? Megan raised both hands. He asked me what kind of ring you liked 3 months ago. I made an inference. You brought everyone? Mom did. Susan was crying too hard to defend herself. Lily shouted, Are you getting married? Claire laughed. Apparently. Her family surrounded us. Robert shook my hand and then hugged me. Megan whispered, Good answer, when she hugged Claire. Susan looked at the ring for approximately 2 seconds before saying, I know you told me not to plan anything, but there is a place near. Mom, Claire said. Right, boundaries. Susan waited 3 seconds. Tomorrow? Tomorrow. Our wedding happened 9 months later. Small by Susan's standards, large by mine. We held it outdoors near Estes Park with family, close friends, and enough people from Claire's professional world that I spent half the reception trying to remember names. During Megan's toast, she told the ballroom story. Most couples announce they're back together, she said. Claire and Daniel preferred a more innovative strategy, publicly pretending to be together before privately admitting they wanted to be. Everyone laughed. Claire leaned toward me. We could leave. Your mother would track us. True. Megan continued. I was furious that night, mostly because Claire lied to Mom. But looking back, I think the funniest part is that those two thought the kiss was fake. Everyone who saw it knew better. Claire covered her face. I hate her. No, you don't. Temporary hatred. When the toast ended, I looked across the room at Susan. She caught me watching and pointed 2 fingers at her eyes, then at us, as if warning us she was monitoring the marriage. I laughed. Claire followed my gaze. We're never escaping my family. I included them in the proposal speech. Contractually binding. Apparently. 2 years later, our daughter Emma was born. Marriage and parenthood tested every communication skill we thought we had mastered. Sleep deprivation turns emotionally intelligent adults into unreasonable roommates. Claire once accused me of loading the dishwasher with hostility. I once spent an entire afternoon irritated because she volunteered us for a family brunch without asking, then insisted I wasn't irritated until she finally said, Daniel, your face has been filing complaints for 3 hours. We learned that growth isn't permanent software. Under stress, old habits return. I became practical and emotionally quiet. Claire started assuming instead of asking. The difference was that we recognized the pattern sooner. Are you telling me what you want? I would ask, or hoping I'll infer it. She hated that question because it worked. Claire developed her own version for me. Do you actually need more information, or are you using information to delay choosing? I hated that one for exactly the same reason. Sometimes the answer was uncomfortable, sometimes it started an argument. But our arguments stopped being evidence that something was wrong with the marriage. They became maintenance. Years after the fundraiser, we attended another event at the Halston Hotel. By then, Claire was executive director of the foundation. I had become a partner at my firm. Emma was spending the night with Susan and Robert, which meant Susan had sent us 17 photographs before dinner. We stood in the same ballroom where that first public kiss happened. Claire wore blue this time. You're staring, she said, remembering. Dangerous habit. Do you remember exactly where we were? Unfortunately. She pointed toward a column. There. No, closer to the dance floor. I organized the event. I renovated the room. Want to measure it? I have equipment in the car. She laughed and slipped her arm through mine. A younger colleague approached and asked Claire whether I was her husband. Sometimes, she said. Excuse me? The woman asked. Ignore her, I said. We've been married 6 years. Claire smiled. He used to be my ex-boyfriend. The woman looked confused. That sounds complicated. It was. After she walked away, I said, Do you enjoy telling people that? Immensely. Why? Because it reminds me that endings aren't always permanent. Dangerously sentimental. Marriage weakened me. Later that evening, the photographer from the original fundraiser approached us. She still worked many of Claire's events. I have something you might want, she said. She showed us an old photograph on her tablet. It was the kiss, the first one. Claire's hand was gripping my jacket. My arm was around her waist. Behind us, slightly out of focus, Susan was approaching with Robert and Megan. The photograph had captured the exact second before everything collapsed. I never published this one, the photographer said. It felt personal. Claire stared at it. Can you send it to me? Absolutely. In the car afterward, I asked why she wanted it. Because that was the last moment we were pretending. Technically, we kept pretending for another 30 seconds. Emotionally, I understood. The kiss had been intended as evidence of something false. Instead, it became evidence of something we were both hiding. Not that we should automatically reunite, not that love erased the reasons we had separated. It simply proved that the relationship still had emotional weight, and that ignoring that weight was also a choice. Claire reached across the console and took my hand. I'm glad they caught us, she said. Your family? Yes. You were humiliated. Completely. Your mother didn't speak to you for 12 hours. Longest 12 hours of my life. Megan threatened me. Normal? And you're glad? If they hadn't caught us, I might have turned that kiss into another secret. I would have told myself it meant nothing because admitting otherwise would require deciding what to do about it. I squeezed her hand. I probably wouldn't have done the same. Exactly. We were exhausting. We still are. Fair, and that photograph eventually ended up framed in our home office. Not in the living room, because Claire said explaining it to guests would require too much context. Beneath it, she placed a small handwritten card. The last fake kiss. The first time I saw it, I laughed. Technically inaccurate. How? The kiss wasn't fake. Claire looked at me. The reason was, better. She crossed out the original sentence and wrote, the last time we pretended. That one stayed. And maybe that is the simplest way I can explain what happened between us. Claire and I didn't lose 4 years because we lacked love. We lost the relationship because we kept translating vulnerability into safer languages. I used logistics when I should have used desire. Claire used silence when she should have made requests. I believed commitment required certainty. She believed real love should anticipate needs without being told. Both ideas sounded romantic or responsible until they were tested by real life. Neither survived. The second relationship worked because we stopped demanding that love protect us from discomfort. Claire could say, I want you to choose me, without making that a command. I could say, I'm afraid of promising forever, without using fear as an excuse to avoid deciding indefinitely. We could influence each other's lives without pretending influence was control. We could disappoint each other without treating disappointment as betrayal. And most importantly, we learned that asking directly gives the other person something guessing never can: the freedom to answer honestly. That was why the real kiss at the exhibit mattered more than the dramatic one in the ballroom. Claire asked because she wanted to kiss me. I said yes because I wanted the same thing. No audience, no emergency, no performance. Sometimes people ask whether getting back together with an ex is a mistake. I don't think the word ex answers that question. The better question is why the relationship ended and whether anything meaningful has changed. Missing someone isn't change. Chemistry isn't change. Loneliness isn't change. Even love by itself isn't change. Claire and I still loved each other when we broke up. What changed was our behavior. We learned to say the dangerous sentence sooner. We learned that I want this is not the same as you owe me this. We learned that choosing a person does not mean surrendering your independent judgment. And we learned that sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is let someone know exactly how much they matter before asking them to make a decision. My ex-girlfriend once asked me to kiss her in front of a crowd so everyone would believe we were still together. Her family caught us, the lie collapsed, and for a few hours it felt like we had created an unnecessary disaster. In reality, the disaster stripped away the comfortable distance we had built after the breakup. It forced Claire to tell her mother the truth. It forced me to admit the kiss mattered. It forced both of us to decide whether our unfinished feelings were merely nostalgia or something worth examining. We didn't answer that question with another kiss. We answered it over months of conversations, boundaries, difficult choices, and ordinary evidence. By the time I asked Claire to marry me, I wasn't trying to recover the woman I had lost. I was choosing the woman standing in front of me, and she was choosing the man I had finally learned how to become. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me what you think. Can two people build a stronger relationship after a breakup if they genuinely change the behavior that ended the first one? Or are some doors better left closed? For Claire and me, being caught pretending was embarrassing, but it finally taught us that the truth was the only thing worth building on.